Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former NWA Florida World and Tag Team Champion, former NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Champion. He's Mr. Scott McGhee. Scott, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
What's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Uh, should not very much, put it that way. My biggest excitement was last Saturday, uh, the 5th of November. So uh, I went to that fan fest, and it was a great time with Terry Allen and Bill Apter and Jody Simon. It was really great. I haven't seen Magnum for 40 years. So
Whoa, oh my God.
yeah, we spoke on the phone briefly, but that was the first time we've ever seen each other. Yeah.
Wow, what's that like getting back together with some of the guys and seeing them after you haven't seen them for decades?
Well, uh, seeing Terry, it was like seeing a long lost brother,
Hmm.
and it was really, really great, to get to hug him, you know. And Jerry Briscoe showed up, you know, and
Yes.
so then there was three of us. uh, but I since that event Saturday, uh, I've been very quiet. When I see my son, took my two dogs and my wife, and we traveled up to Gainesville, and that's all. Why do you ask me a question?
I want to know what you're up to. You
Yeah.
got a legendary guy here, Yeah.
No, no, no. I'm, my dogs are sleeping on the couch, and it's real very quiet.
So with you, as far as like the wrestling business, I'm just curious, like rewinding it back though, how did you break in? Did you train under Flair? Like, how did you actually break in? Because I know you're not from the States.
No, I'm from England. I came over the first time when I was 14, and I went back to England when I was 17, and I carried on my amateur wrestling, and I came back when I was just turned 19. I've been here ever since, But Rick was the first time I met Rick in person when I was 19. He was out with somebody he shouldn't been out with. Uh, so we left the breakfast place, and my dad we went somewhere else for breakfast. But I I met Rick the first day I was here, and he treated me like he said he was so good to me, you know. He was so good.
So how did that get set up with him though? Was that something your dad had set up? Because I know your dad's an ex wrestler too, but how did that
No,
get set up with Rick?
no. I was at the gym. I mean, I was in the office. You know, when anybody was breaking in, they come in and they'd say, "Listen, this guy needs discouraging." That's what they say. You say, "This guy needs discouraging. We don't want him in the business." Or they say, "This guy is gonna. We want work out with this guy. He's got a good." Yeah, he said he's like the football stars,
Right.
and you know there'll be all kinds of people. We had one guy showed up in a mask like wrestling too. He had white boots, white tights, a white mask that he refused to take off. And while I was taping my ankles, because I'd hurt both my ankles to wrestle a guy. uh, Rick and what's it? He was the tag team partner of jeez, what's his name? He was the assistant booker. Jeez, I can't remember. Uh, not Arn Anderson.
Ole
Uh,
Anderson?
not Orley. One more. There's only one more
Gene,
Anderson.
Gene
Huh?
Anderson. Gene Anderson.
Gene Anderson. I don't know why I must be nervous. Gene Anderson, you know, he he started putting the boots to the guy, knocked all his teeth out, you know,
Whoa.
and afterwards, he removed his mask, and I went back and I showed him his teeth. Maybe he could do something with them, but I never that was uh, that was one of the guys that didn't come back, you know. And but like I say, I helped to train Stan Lane, but I was just doing the working out part, you know, and Rick was doing the in the ring stuff, you know, and I don't know if I was staying at my house or if I was staying at Rick's house, you know. It was that kind of I just enjoyed his company so much. Him being 10 years older than me, him being married to my ex-wife's sister, you know, uh, and of course, hanging around Rick all the time. He had the training table, when we used to go eat afterwards. There was these two huge twin uh, guys. They were about 6'6", about 240, ripped, you know, and he was training those two guys. And Buddy Rogers was assistant booker, so I was in there with Buddy Rogers. Anybody that came down to wrestle, I wrestled them, you know.
When you look at it with Flair, obviously you said you had a little bit of a personal relationship. What is it like with Rick, though? I mean, is it as crazy with the partying and all that other stuff? Do you get trapped up in that whirlwind of partying with Nate all the time?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, every minute of it. Yeah.
What's a typical night out with him?
No, I'm talking about this is a long time ago.
Right, of course, many, many years ago. Yeah.
But Rick it was more important to him that you had a good time. You know what I mean? You know, so he'd order kamikazes, and I'd have to be asking the guy I spent the night with, uh, what did we do last night?
He
Usually, I usually was staying with Rick. Any anything. He made you feel that everybody else was unimportant, and you was the only person important to him. He had that ability to. Then Ricky Steamboat was breaking in a guy uh, and so I was down at the ring working out with his guy, and I was. I also I also used to work for Crockett's sister. You know, she had a baseball team, the Charlotte Orioles.
Yep, Debbie Ringley.
So
Yep.
uh, so I worked for cleaning up the baseball field, refereeing. I was refereeing, the pro matches, and I was also, when it was a man short, I would be the extra man,
Was there ever any other choice for you but wrestling as far as like being in the business because your dad was in it, or no?
Oh well, when I was when I was 15, I made my mind up right then and there. I was gonna be amateur till I was 19 or 20. Then when I was 19 or 20, I wanted to be in the business. I've been studying it, you know, all my life, and you know, if you honestly, it's true what they say. If you visualizing the move, it really helps. So
So
I long time.
so
Yeah.
once you get in and once you get to the States, you said Florida's your home, and then you're going to Crockett too, because obviously Charlotte and the baseball team stuff. So like, where were you living? What was your home base?
Uh, well, when I first came over, I lived in my dad's apartment, and I went down to stay with Cal Gotch for I think it was like I know it was over a month, you know, and that would be Christmas '78, and I flew down to Florida to work out with Cal, and then my dad drove down to Tampa, and we all met up there.
So when you were talking before about discouraging wrestlers, was that very commonplace back then? Because there's obviously the tape with Bob Roop beating the hell out of somebody. They were filming it, and Eddie Graham was obviously saying, "quote unquote," discourage him for being in the business. Was that just totally commonplace? They just didn't want outsiders breaking into the business.
Yeah, that was coming. Yeah, yeah,
What did you think of it? It's just another day at the office. Hey, another guy we gotta,
yeah,
basically break in or break out almost.
yeah. That was it. Discourage him or encourage him. You know.
Did you? I know we're talking about Gene and stuff, but did you witness Bob Roop and some of the stuff that he
No,
he had in there, or no?
no, never. No.
What about you? Did you have to take matters into your own? Did you have to beat up a few guys?
Oh, sure. But well, I didn't use my boots or I just beat him with wrestling. But the biggest thing was getting behind him, get behind him, and slap sleeper on him. You know that was you know that was my usual. That's my go-to uh, move. You know, just get behind him, and I'll do the rest.
Are you
I
a bit
mean,
of a are you a bit of a
I mean,
shooter?
I don't, I don't consider myself a shooter, but when I weigh 175 pounds, and say, hey, this kid's from high school. If you can beat him, then you can beat. Then you can get to go with a real wrestler. And of course, nobody ever. Uh, yeah, I just there was once two huge guys came down. They wanted to break in the business. They jumped the ring with Cyclone Negro, and they kind of. I wasn't there, but he kind of embarrassed them, you know. So next, they bring him down to the office. I think this time the ring was in Tampa. I'm not Tampa. The Charlotte Coliseum, I think it was. Yeah. Anyway, this one guy was the one guy was about 275. One guy was about 240, and I weigh like buck 75 soaking wet. And I went in with a first guy went behind him, took him down, sleeper, and the other guy, he got to see what I did to the first guy.
Right.
So I tried a double leg, and I, I, God must have been on my side because I took him down, knocked him out with a sleeper. when I say knocked out, I put him asleep.
Right.
You know, I don't mean he was kicked or anything like that. And there was a couple of guys there. There was my dad, of course, and uh, Steve Travis. Steve Travis was there, you know, and who the heck was that else? I can't remember. I was 19.
So, like Stan Lane, for instance, he's not
Yeah.
somebody you guys are gonna do that to, right? Am I correct? You're gonna take it easy on Stan
No, yes. Yeah.
because you saw something in him. He didn't need
No,
discouraging; he needed encouraging. So you
no.
guys would help him along.
I knew that Stan was working out with Steve Muslin, Steve Travis. It was Steve Travis actually who I've got, you know, who brought this friend Stan Lane, and Rick asked, "Hey," he said, "every time you work out, I'll give you $20." You know, so I wanted to do it 5 times a
Right.
week.
Yeah, make a little extra
But
cash.
yeah, but I did not have anything to do with the professional side of things. I was just training, uh, you know, to really get him in good shape, but the best shape I could get him in, which it was easy. He was 25 years old. He was good, young, he was good looking guy. So yeah, so I enjoyed it. We had a good time. I went out and I'm afraid I overdrank, problem drinking, you know.
Yes.
And but we had a bunch of fun. I mean, the workout is from 8 to 10. The rest of the day is what we're going to do and where's the party.
Yes. Yes. Definitely. And I guess with Rick and Stan Lane, it's probably not hard to find a good party with those two guys.
Well, Stan was I only Stan wasn't really a I can say
Not a
uh,
partier.
no. I'm not. You see, when he broke in I think he had his first match with Greg Valentine. Yeah, I think he had his first match against Greg Valentine, but he picked up, you know, as far as talking, he was really good at talking, and he did real good, you know.
So when did you first get your big break? Is it Florida? Is that when you first get like your big break in the business?
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, American Dream, you know. I came down to see my dad from North Carolina, and they were short of a man, and they asked me if I take his place, and I went back to North Carolina, and Dusty told my dad that I could come down, I could start there anytime I wanted to, you know. So I took the offer, you know, and went down. I was just turned 20, and yeah, life was life was good.
What did you think about Big Dust?
It was great. He was fantastic. You know, he yeah, he was really great. You know, yeah, he gave me my first break when me and Barry we won the Florida Tag Team Champions. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, we still are the youngest ever pair to win the Florida Tag Team Championships.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
So Dusty's idea was, okay, we got this new guy. We're going to put him with Barry. Obviously, guys are both very, very young at that point, early 80s, maybe even 1980 itself. But that was the
Yeah,
plan, put these two young guys together and build them and you feud with the assassins or whoever's there, but build you guys up as
yeah.
young
But the
guns.
thing is, this was Dusty's idea. I didn't know nothing. Whatever he said, I did. You know, and Dusty had a future. You know, but you see, some places like Tampa, you can get away with a guy my size. You know, and because I was bigger than the uh, the promoter's son. You know what I mean? I was bigger than Mike.
Mike Graham.
Yeah, and they often use smaller guys. You know, but yeah, I try to stay away from the giants. You know, well, it didn't bother me. I didn't. I always figured I'm gonna be in the ring with somebody much heavier than me. You know, I learned to have my well, I would. I learned to have good matches with big guys. You know,
So did you even think about it like that you were a smaller guy, or you're like, nah, it is what it is. Mike Graham is small, like that doesn't matter.
uh, I don't know, but uh, I never thought of it. I, I never thought of being a big guy, small guy. I was just a guy there, and we're gonna paint the picture we want to paint. Now, if he don't want to paint the same picture I'm going to paint, you know, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, so I got along with everybody. You know, everybody.
So you got along good with Dusty?
Of course, yeah. I loved him. I loved him. Yeah, he was, you know, he was so much special. You know, well, his two sons. Uh, you know, they're great workers. You know,
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. What did you
yeah,
think of him back then? Did you think he was, was he like like a player's coach, so to speak? Was he good with the boys? But obviously he was the booker. Like, how was he with the guys?
he was good as long as you didn't break any rules. Like there's an unstanding rule that you got to be there an hour before, and in a state of mind that you can work. You know, and yeah, that was it.
What are some other rules that he had?
Let me think. I can't think of any.
So just get there early and that was it?
Get there now before, and be ready to work. You know, you know.
Did he ever say to you what his plans were? Like you were saying, you just go there, you show up, you work. Did he ever tell you like, "Hey, I got big plans for you, baby. Like I'm gonna, doing this, doing that," or he never even let you in on what his ideas were for you?
Yeah, he used to meet Barry and Manny. You know, he told us he told me and Barry to get robes made, and he said, "Because I can't be the American dream forever." And yeah, so I was not even 21, and I was called in the office. You know, we got these plans for you. You know, I was supposed to. Anyway, never mind about that. It didn't come off.
What was it supposed to be? What were you supposed to do? You were going to be the next Dusty, the next
No,
American
no,
Dream.
no, 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 no.
How could that be?
I was going to be the next junior heavyweight champion of the world. He told me,
Right.
and I then I really don't know what happened because the next thing I knew is I was going to North Carolina and he was going somewhere else. So,
And it never came to fruition, never happened for you?
right, yeah, yeah.
Interesting thing about Florida, though, in that time period, is the NWA World Champion, obviously the traveling champion, would
Mhm.
often come to the territory. So,
Uh,
early on in your run there, obviously Harley Race. So, it's like you'd win a battle royal or whatever, and then Harley Race would come in, and you'd get an NWA World Title shot. Was that a huge deal to you? Because to me, I mean
yeah,
that's enormous.
West Palm Beach, we had the winner of the battle royale was going to wrestle Harley Race for the world championship, and I was lucky enough to win the battle royal, so I wrestled Harley, you know, and not as if I was nervous, but he took me in a room and he said, it's an honor just to uh, get in the same ring with him, you know. And I say, yeah, yes, Dusty, yeah, I know it is Dusty, and that's the way that's why that's the way I took it, and we was gonna have a good match.
What did you think about Harley?
He was great. I know I should. Everything is great, but he he see he knew my dad for 4 years. Before I came around the business. You know, and like every time I met him, he almost asked how my dad was doing. Even when he was out of the business, I always ask about my dad. You know.
What did you think about him as a guy, though? They always say legit tough guy, don't mess with him. Stuff. What did you think about Harley Race as the guy?
He was, yeah, he was a guy. Yeah,
Legit tough guy.
yeah,
You ever see him get in any bar fights? I was talking to Flair not that long ago, and he mentioned, he was laughing. He couldn't stop telling Harley Race stories about him beating guys up, beating two guys up at once, all this stuff, like him being a legit tough guy.
yeah. I don't know. Geez, I'm trying to rack my brain, and I don't remember Harley having any fisticuffs. I've seen Dusty getting into it in Florida.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
What happened?
The guy fell down, and then he put the boost to him.
Well, it was just at a bar. Like, how did it happen? How did the fight start?
It happened at TV in Tampa, and this big guy walked through the door that we go in and out of, and nobody is allowed in or out that door except the wrestlers. You know that. This big guy, he came in and he said something about no, uh, he said something about some promoter, and Dusty came over and he pushed it, and he hit him with a left and a right. He went down, and then he put the boost to him. Yeah.
Wow, a little bit unruly there. That's a little different side of Dusty than we're used to, maybe.
I've seen it. Yeah. Bang, bang, and hit the ground, and he put the boost to him. What? Yeah.
So just going back for a second with you, are you happy to be getting NWA World Title shots and things? I mean, that's a pretty big push if you think about it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, it was me and Barry when we won. I mean, we really, yeah, that was my first title, that I held with Barry. That was real big, real big, because the way the way that it's structured is the the tag team is always it's well cherished. I mean, the Florida tag team champion in the ratings was number one challenger. Uh, whoever the champion was, if you were at the Florida championship, you was a number one contender. You know,
And if you look at it, when eventually a little bit later on, like you mentioned, you hadn't seen Terry Allen, Magnum TA in years. You guys won the Florida tag titles at one point
I
too.
said, we won the Florida
Global tag titles, yeah.
global, yeah.
So not the NWA Florida, but the global tag champs. But that's pretty amazing. You and TA tag champs.
Oh yeah, that was, of course, that was a couple of years after that little thing that me and Barry had. It's a, I used to look at the territory just like my dad did. You know, you stop here for a year, then you leave, and you go for 6 months, and you go there for 6 months. So I would, just travel around, from place to place. But every time I turned up in Florida, something good happened, you know, always. I don't know whether it's something to do with the weather, but I really loved it.
It could be that great weather. And then we're talking about Flair before Flair becomes champion. He starts coming back in the territory, and you're getting NWA world title shots against Flair. What was it like actually like wrestling? We're talking about him behind the scenes stuff, but what was it like wrestling Flair as you're getting these NWA world title shots?
It was great. I mean, it, we'd always go a long time, like 45 minutes to a draw, and he was just, in fact, they have a snippet on Florida CWF, and they have like, me and Rick were in wrestling each other, and they opened the 2 weeks of the program with our match. So that really that wasn't when I beat him though. That was one that, that's when he cheated.
And then obviously wrestling him is got to be, and also I mean he's one of the all time greats. It's got to be a great honor to wrestle him, but you got to be able to keep up with him too, right? I mean he's the 60-minute man, the
Yeah.
marathon man, if you will.
Yep. Yep.
You got to be in good shape to wrestle Nate.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I was in good shape, even though I tried everything. I was trying anything and everything that doesn't promote good health, like partying all night and drinking.
Right.
But we was young. We was young.
Hey, and they say Flair sometimes those kamikazes when they're not looking, he throws one over his shoulder. You know what I mean? So maybe he's not drinking as much as you were drinking. You know what I mean?
I don't believe I ever saw Rick waste a kamikaze. Jeez. I know. Who told you that story?
I think it was Arn was telling me it was like a joke because he was noticing that he's getting so drunk and Flair is like still with it. So he's saying, I don't know if he's drinking as much as I'm drinking. Yeah.
That, to waste alcohol, to actually waste alcohol, that's a no-no.
Yes. Yeah. So Flair wouldn't do that then. He wouldn't be wasting those kamikazes.
I'm sure he was looking out for somebody.
Right.
But to waste kamikaze. Oh no.
So when Dusty leaves Florida and Kevin Sullivan starts booking, obviously you become the heavyweight champion and start moving up the ranks. What did you think of Sullivan's booking? Obviously, it's a little bit different than Dusty, but what did you think about him kind of coming over and taking over the book in Florida?
I didn't know he had.
Oh, really?
Really, yeah. Uh, I didn't know. I didn't know he had, maybe I left. You know, there was at one time I wrestled uh, just after I lost the belt to Jesse Barr. You know, and you know, I didn't know it, but I was working the week after with Jesse Barr just after he'd won the title for me, and he said, "What?" He said, "What the hell are you doing? You know, you've been a Florida heavyweight champion for a year. You go out there, you lose your match, and what happened? You know, you you know." And I said, "I didn't realize I was doing that. You know." And he said, "Just remember, you was the Florida heavyweight champion." And then of course, when I leave Florida, go out there in the mismatch world of professional wrestling, uh, my friend, I just came back from England, and I was staying with Austin Idol, and uh, I was 24, and he predicted that in 4 or 5 years, he said, once Vince as takes over all the territories, you know, there's only going to be one place for you to work, and that's New York. And at the time, oh, I said, you're full of it. You know, that'll never happen. And of course, he did, and he was right. And I don't owe you nothing, Austin. I didn't bet you nothing. Not like the time I bet you for $100 that I could run 5 miles. And I ran the 5 miles, and that was 40 years ago, and you still owe me for that. You conned me into I've got, never mind about the $100, I've got a bed. And he tries to give me a bed instead of $100. I don't think so.
Yeah, that should be charging
that,
interest, by the way, on that
that was a
100.
joke. That's my strange. That's my comedy.
I was going to say he should be charging, or you should be charging him interest on that $100. That's what I think. But how much would that be worth today?
Geez, probably 20,000.
Yes, Austin Idol, where are you? You owe him 20 grand.
You owe me money? No, he's a good friend of mine.
So you leave Florida, you go to Crockett. Obviously, you're part of Starrcade 93, or Starrcade 83, excuse me.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a huge show, Greensboro Coliseum. So, I mean, you're moving around a lot, like you said, territories. I mean, you go to Memphis, you go to Pacific Northwest, you go back to Florida. I mean, that's just the life of a territory wrestler, huh? I mean, you're just going everywhere. You're traveling all around.
Yeah. I went to Oregon. Well, he was Roddy Piper. He said, "Hey," he said, the promoter Donald Owens up in Oregon. Now, I've already been to Oregon when I was 16, 17. You know, I went to school there. And he said, yeah, they're looking for a guy that is bigger than Chavo Guerrero. And would you, it's a spot on top, you know. Are you interested? Now, I've already been to Oregon, and I know how depressing it is, you know. He
Yeah.
rains every day. And I said, yes, thank you. And I left the territory after Starcade. After Starcade, I left, went to Oregon, and the first thing they try and do is change my name. Right, I'm not Scottish anymore. I am Irish Pat McGhee. Now I don't know anything about Irish Pat, but nothing sends. Does it send make your hair stand up on end? Pat McGhee, Irish Pat McGhee from Dublin. You know, I have a hard time. Or I used to, my accent used to be really strong, and I had a real uh, Yorkshire accent, you know, which you can tell, which is in no way do I don't wish to uh, compare the great West Yorkshire men, and I don't want to, but I don't know.
Irish Pat McGhee. It's not like I don't know. It doesn't fit you. I mean,
No,
obviously Scott McGhee, but I mean, I don't know. Irish Pat.
Irish part.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. You know, like you know, just a couple of years sooner, I was going to school in Oregon. You know, it felt like an Irish part is is the end of the road. And anyway, so it didn't really. Oh, I tell you what, me and
Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect.
yeah, we were tag team champions out there. Yeah, yeah, we sure were. Yeah,
It's a pretty good team. You and Perfect. What do you think about
oh,
Kurt?
it was great. It was great. Could look after himself in the ring, out the ring, and yeah, it was really. It, it was a pleasure.
Known as
But
a bit of a ribber, though, right?
and he's also a card shark.
Oh,
Yeah, he'd always take his he'd always take his money. Yeah.
that's great. So after Portland, you got to get out of there, right? I mean, you're not Irish Pat. You got to get out of there.
I jumped from the fire into the fire pan. I went to Austin Idol says, give my friend his booking Jerry Lawler. Right. So I called up Jerry Lawler. I said, hey, this is Scott McGhee. He said, well, to tell you the truth, he said, I never heard of you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? He said, I never heard of you. So anyway, come down. Come down here and you can starve to death like the rest of us. Oh, except Jerry, of course. Not Jerry. And so that's what I did. I went down there, and of course, he didn't tell me I was going to starve to death. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
No, he kept that private. But yeah.
So Memphis, not good to you. Wasn't financially great for you in that area.
Oh, I don't know. It was okay. I'm not ragging on Jerry, but I you heard of a guy called Irish Pat Barrett?
Oh, of course, yeah. Former WWF wrestler. I was actually just talking to somebody recently. This guy Simon Rochford. I don't know if you know familiar. He runs IWW in Ireland. He was like Pat's protege. So I was talking about Pat somewhat recently, actually.
Well, Irish Pat gives me a telephone call, and he said, "Listen, I need somebody to go to Dubai for a month or something like that." And I've been looking for a reason to leave Jerry. I mean, not that he'd lose any sleep over it. And I said, I called. Who's the two guys that used to book out there? One is his son wrestled. He wrestled.
Out that where in England?
No, in Memphis.
Oh, Jerry Jarrett, and
Yeah,
Jeff
Jerry
Jarrett.
Jarrett.
Yeah.
Jerry Jarrett. Uh, well, I called Jerry up and I said, because he was Jerry was the booker. Jerry Lawler was the booker, but Jerry, what's his name?
Jarrett.
Jerry Jarrett. I'm sorry, he's early. It's Jerry Jarrett. So I called Jerry Jarrett up and I said, look, I'm leaving on such and such a date, but I got this opportunity to go to Dubai for a month, and he said, "Oh, is it okay if I leave early? Because you never want to burn your bridges behind you."
Right.
So he said, "Sure, yeah, right." I said, "Goodbye, Jerry," and I 2 days after. Irish Pat Barrett calls me up and said, "Oh, it's cancelled. You know, that trip to Dubai was cancelled." So I was sat in my apartment and I called Terry. I called Terry Magnum, and he was working out working for Bill Watts. And I said, "Geez, Terry, I ain't got nowhere to work." And anyway, the phone rang about, I'm deep in thought, I'm thinking. And the phone rang, I picked it up, and he said, "It's Dusty." And I says, "Dusty who?" He said, "Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream." And of course, my mind was, I said, "Yeah, Dusty." He said, how long will it take you to get to Florida? I said, "About 12 hours. Okay, right. You start on such a date, right?" But I came down to Tampa, and I got a bit of a push, but Dusty left. After the push, Dusty left, and I was left with a new booker that stuck with the Florida heavyweight champion, and so I just didn't know what to do exactly.
Yeah, I feel like you would like leave, then come back to Florida. It felt like it, like go to Portland, go to Florida. You know what I mean? Go to Memphis, go to Florida. Go to
Yeah,
Japan for a little bit. Do maybe a
yeah,
little bit of fighting over in Japan, then you come back to Florida.
yeah. I forgot about Japan.
Yeah, a few times you went over there. Yeah, go to England, and then you go back to
Yeah,
Florida. Yeah, very interesting. You always ended up
yeah,
back in Florida.
yeah. Well, first of all, it's the nice weather, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you never freeze in Florida, and yeah, that's why I always loved Florida. You know, you know. My wife is giving me the evil eye, but I always loved Florida, and you know, like oh, I've got.
Well,
Can you do something about the power?
What happened?
It's going off.
Oh, here, look at it.
so when you go and you're about to leave Florida again, you go to Japan, you end up in the WWF. Oddly enough, even though Austin Idol kind of foresaw it and predicted the future there of
Yeah.
going to WWF in September of '85, how do you end up in WWF?
Josh Scott. Josh Scott was a booker. So I called up George, and see, I called up George Scott and he said, "You start on such a date." Boom, that was it. Yeah.
Just that
So
easy.
yeah, because he'd already told me that I was welcome in New York anytime I wanted to, you know, and so that's what I eventually did. Yeah, I went and worked for George Scott up in the land of the lost. Up,
Land of the
up in
Giants too, right?
Atlanta Giants. Yeah, yep.
Is that the most money you ever made in your career? Was it working for Vince in WWF?
Do you know how much money I made in 1 week?
No idea.
In Now this is what I'm I'm underneath the card, right?
Right.
I'm making about 2 grand a week, 2.5 grand a week. I never made that much money in all my life. And one time I I I tag team partnered with the Bulldogs against their manager, so it was 3 against 3. And with that one match, I made over $7,000.
Whoa, nice.
I got over 5 grand for that one match with the Bulldogs. You know, can you imagine 7 times 5? You know the kind of money that if you're making 30, that's 35 grand a week. You know,
Yeah, amazing.
and I remember Paul Orndorff telling me he was making 50 grand a week when he's working up with Hogan. You know,
Yep.
and that's when it hurt his arm. You know, uh, that's when he's for. I don't know. I personally, I would have gone and get my neck looked at. You know, because after he woke up, he was told to, you need a surgery, and I've had like 3 neck surgeries, and but he didn't, and his body was never the same afterwards because he was. I can't remember it was right arm or left arm. I can't remember,
Yeah, I think it was
but
his left.
left arm. Yeah, he was. He was just as he got older. I saw him just before he passed away. Not just before, and when I say just, hey, it could be 2 or 3 years. I don't know, but he told me that he couldn't even pick his arm up. Couldn't even pick it up.
Wow.
And yeah, that's about 3 years ago, just before he died, I guess. Yeah. Next question.
Might have been his right arm. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, might have been his right. I just remember one of them was had that paralysis. It wasn't great. But what did you think about working for Vince? What do you think about Vince McMahon?
Uh, he's a great businessman.
What about a person? Did you like him personally?
He knew of me, but I don't think he even knows my name.
You were too low on the card for him, you mean?
Yes, too low. I was too low on the card.
What did you think about the Hulkster? You mentioned Orndorff making all that money. What did you think? Did you have any sort of relationship with Terry? Obviously, Florida boy.
Oh, sure, yeah. We was in Japan together, you know, and yeah, we was in Japan together, and what a big old time. I mean, with Terry, uh, yeah, that was right when there was Rocky 3 had just come out,
Yeah.
and we went in the movie theater, and it was already dark. We walked in the movie theater. Of course, we watched the end of Rocky 3 and Thunder Lips and all that. And when at the end of the movie, and especially when he stood up, I mean, the people went absolutely nuts. I mean, you've just paid to see a guy that's been sat next to you.
Yeah. Pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
So obviously you end up staying with WWE basically until like the end of 87 almost. So it's like 85, 86, 87. Why'd you end up leaving WWE? WWF?
Oh, well, I hurt my knee. Hurt my knee, and I had to have an operation, on my knee. Like it was like real high tech surgery at the time, and I was off for about a year, maybe more, and nobody could use me. I'd always getting hurt, and Dynamite Kid told me they've got a place up here for you, So I went and worked as Garfield Ports.
In Stampede?
Yeah. Great matches, fantastic time. But the day of me, we had a good feeling that we was going to win. We knew we could beat him. And the day of the matches, I have 2 blood clots in my brain.
Oh.
So that kind of cooled my jets. Yeah.
And that kind of led to retirement, or basically you're just done in that territory?
Well, I couldn't speak.
Wow.
I was in ICU unit in Calgary, ICU unit. I couldn't speak. I couldn't communicate with anybody. They tell people that come and see me, he's a vegetable. He's a vegetable, and so don't expect too much. In fact, they expected me to die. Yeah.
Wow.
Just, they expected me to die. Yeah.
So what happened? Miraculous recovery? I mean, what happened?
I was in there. I don't know how long I was in the ICU unit. Dynamite Kid used to come and see me when he was in town, because I was living at his house. I was living at Dynamite's house with Michelle and Bronwyn, and and I couldn't speak. So so I had pretty tough time.
Wow, damn, that's crazy. The way that happened. Were you in Dynamite close? You and Dynamite Kid? Sounds like you guys were buddies.
Yeah, extremely close. I got okay.
Oh wow, look at that. Yeah, the tattoo. Wow. Oh my god. So you guys were. Wow, I didn't realize how close you were. Damn, that's pretty close having a tattoo with a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. So you think he was, I don't know, a little bit of misconception about him? They used to say he's a bully, this and that. Obviously, you're buddies with him. A little bit of a misconception about him?
Yeah. About him being a bully. Never bullied anybody. Except unless they were coming on too strong. Especially in his domain. Yeah. I mean, I've known Dynamite for years and years, and I went to see him when he wasn't in the business anymore. Yeah.
He was in a frail state, right? He was in a
No,
wheelchair.
he wasn't so frail.
Oh,
He was in between. You know, I knew a guy in England called Bernard Brooks. He had his recording company was called Perfect Sounds. Now he's a wrestling fan and all kinds of stuff. And I used to go over to England, and when I was about 37, I used to teach him wrestling, and he used to give me so much money. And I told Dynamite about him. I said, I met this guy. He is very, very wealthy, and you need to get over there so you can, just just wants to meet you. And after I left, they got in touch, and they got to meet each other. But did you write something down?
No.
No. So yeah. Now
so
Bernard has just recently passed away. So
Dynamite Kid and you guys, obviously you had a long time relationship. Was he like, they portrayed him as he was a bit paranoid because of the Rougeau brothers incident stuff? Was that all that stuff is true, that he was paranoid about them and maybe some retribution, and the whole story obviously with the sack of quarters and everything. Is it What's the truth behind a lot of that history with Dynamite and the Rougeaus?
I don't know, but every time, uh, jeez, can't remember his name. Jack.
Jacques, yeah.
Yeah, I have some memory issues. So yeah, Jack Rougeau, he seems to get taller and bigger every time he tells a story. You know, and now since Dynamite is no more, he's really going over the top. I put you in a wheelchair. That's what was my Jack Rougeau impression.
Yes, that was pretty good.
Well,
Yeah, it
was
was
it?
pretty good.
Okay.
Well, Raymond was telling the story basically that, obviously, I mean, he's his brother, but he was saying cheap shot on Dynamite, obviously, with the roll quarters and everything else. But Raymond was basically saying, like, Jacques is not known as a tough guy either. Like, so he kind of took a cheap shot on Dynamite, knowing that if it wasn't a cheap shot, maybe it would have been different.
Uh, well, first of all, I wasn't there.
Right. Okay.
I was in hospital. In was it the 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 hospital up there in the ICU, and I know that Jack told me a story. Now Jack's 21. I'm 21. Oh, 22, something like that. He was telling me a story one time because we was in Pensacola together, that he had a guy that embarrassed him, when he was 16 years old, embarrassed him at the skating club, where you go around the ring.
Yeah, ice skating rink. Yep.
And it could be a roller rink. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, the next week, Jack hides with a set of brass knuckles, right? Then he jumped out, bam, hit the guy, and it was all over. 1, 2, 3, and it's in the story. Now, that's why I don't know, but guys that were there said he wasn't roll quarters, was a pair of brass knucks.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So I don't know, but I believe it was it's neither here or there. Anyway, whatever happened, and I wish, yeah.
Wish it didn't happen.
Of course, I'd wish it had happened. Of course, yeah. I mean, if you get a roll of quarters in your hand and you knock somebody in the mouth, when you remove the teeth from the bone, that's not like just getting pop.
Right.
It's not like I'm just popping once and then I'll leave them alone. I think he used the brass knucks. But anyway, that's neither there here there. Anyway,
crazy story. Jacques, of course, says Dynamite, I guess, beat the shit out of him before that, and the
no,
different stories going out there, right?
No.
Didn't Jacques say Dynamite beat him up before that?
No.
Well, what's the story? Like, why it happened then?
He said to me, "I give him a punch right on the chin, right there. No harder than this." And I know it's got to be a lot harder than that,
Right.
But he just blew the whole thing off like boom. To him, it wasn't. Once he did that, he thought it was over. And of course, we all know it. No, it wasn't.
But of course, a different side of Dynamite. Just in general, he was a different guy than what's portrayed by some of the other wrestlers.
You tell me a wrestler in one hand. You tell me one wrestler that who badmouthed, apart from the Rougeaus, who badmouthed Dynamite?
Well, I guess Mick Foley, because remember he clotheslined him and broke his jaw.
He don't count. He don't count because he was doing a job, right?
Yep.
And he tells that story everywhere he goes. That's his get cut through all the stuff. Let me tell you about at the time I wrestled Dynamite Kid. So he broke my jaw. Ooh, I had to drink through a straw for 3 weeks. Yeah. What about it?
Right.
What'd you expect?
I know Bret Hart loves Dynamite. Said he's the best ever, pretty much.
Yeah. But he says he was a bully. But I don't think see, I think of as a bully as somebody that's always picking on somebody all the time. And the reason they're picking on you is because they know that they can take you. Now, another guy, they might say, hey, we've got to be careful of him. You've got to watch his left hand. So that's it.
So as we wind it down, we head towards the finish here. What's your favorite territory you ever worked? Would it be Florida?
Florida. Yeah, Florida. Yeah.
Who's a couple quick hitters? Who's your favorite guy you've ever wrestled? Who's your favorite opponent?
Jeez, I don't know. I'm a Dynamite Rick. Dynamite Rick. I mean, guys that had great matches with it are no longer here. There's just a few. There's a few left. Most of them have passed away. Of course, I got to give a shout out to Danny Spivey.
Nice.
I mean, Danny Spivey, me, and Dynamite. Dynamite and David Boy David Boy and Corporal Kirshner. We was the night patrol, and he was really good at first, So
That's who you hung out with, those guys?
Dynamite and Dan Spivey. We was the night patrol. If you could hang with us, then that's why David Boy liked to work out, and he likes a few beers before. No, he likes beer after he's finished wrestling.
Gotcha.
He was like me and Dynamite. We used to like some beers before we wrestled. So I mean, not right before. I mean, if
Right, you had your wits about you.
4 or 5 hours. If you had 4 hours to go to sleep somewhere, then yeah.
Right, you had your wits about you when you were out there wrestling.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So if somebody said, like, what's the legacy of Scott McGhee, or what's the stamp? Like, how are you going to be remembered in the wrestling business? Obviously, you traveled everywhere. You, like you said, worked with Flair, you worked Dynamite, you worked Harley Race, you and Magnum, global champs, you and Barry, tag champs. I mean, you were champion in Florida. What's like the stamp, or what are people going to remember about Scott McGhee?
Well, if they ever do, I can honestly say I never intentionally hurt anybody in the ring.
That's good. Very good. And a hell of a hand. Hell of a worker.
Mm-hmm.
But Scott, before we let you go, is there anywhere where, like, do you do any social media, any stuff like that, or you get out there? You don't do any of that kind of stuff. You're retired. You're loving life in Florida.
Right. Yeah. I've got a dog. Come here. He's like sleeping.
Hey, they love it. They love to sleep all day.
Never mind. I'm just gonna try and.
All right, Scott. Well, thank you for all the time.
Hold on.
Oh, hold on. Oh, you got it. Oh, you're finding the dog. I thought we lost him. Okay. Oh, there he is.
No.
Oh, nice. He's sleeping. Yeah.
That is the brains of the Potts family right there.
Nice. He is nice and snuggled and sleeping there. Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
But Scott, thank you for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. There's been lots of guys that I need to thank, but I just really enjoyed Florida. That's all I can say.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.